What is up, my goblins? Today, I'm gonna be doing a Castle Crashers character tier list because I've been playing that game hella a lot lately, and I've literally beaten the game probably like 5 times the past 2 days. So we're gonna do this character tier list literally. As you can see by our tier list, it's not gonna be your standard A through F or S or whatever. Because I feel like the Castle Crashers characters need to be ranked uniquely, because let's be real, even though certain characters are bad, they're cool enough to where we just all play them and like them anyway. So here are our different tiers we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing cool and good. That means that their design is really sick, their magic is good. So like that would be like the top tier. They're really cool and they're also fun to play because they're really good. Cool and bad means that the character design is cool, but their magic just isn't that good. But they're still fun to play just because they're so cool. Uncool and good is where a character is not cool, but their magic is still good. So like, and the reason this is below cool and bad is because I feel like a character being cool is more important than it being good. And uncool and bad is where we just have the dookie characters that aren't cool or good. And then this secret abomination tier is for 2 specific characters that I really dislike. So we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, let's start the ranking first with the Industrialist. This might be a bit of a hot take in the Castle Crashers community, but I personally don't really like the Industrialist's design that much. So he's gonna go into uncool and good, because obviously his saw blade magic is like one of the best in the game, but I just don't like the way his eyes are kind of like concave in his helmet. Like if his helmet was tightly snug on his head, then why are his eyes so dark and like glowing in the dark and whatnot? It feels like his eyes are just sunken into his skull, and I feel it just looks weird in my opinion. That's why I don't like his design. So that's why he's going there. Next up, we have the Alien Hominid. Now, I really like this guy's design, and I like his weapon a lot. I think they're both really sick. The fact that you can't switch weapons with him kind of sucks, but I don't think his magic is necessarily bad, per se, because you can spam it because it has really low cost, so that's really good. He's definitely more of a magic-based character. This character was definitely designed with like magic gameplay in mind. So for that, he's gonna go into cool, and would he go into cool and bad? I feel like he's probably not the best character just because he's gonna go in cool and good. His magic is good, and not having those extra couple stats does suck, but it's not like a game killer or anything. I think he still goes into cool and good. He's a good character. Next up, we have the Skeleton, and this guy, I never really hear a lot of anybody talking about him, but I think he's one of the coolest characters in the game. I think his dark magic is like nothing crazy or anything, but I think he's still really cool. I mean, skeletons are just sick. Like, not much to say other than that. So, he's not super good though. I should make a cool and mid tier, because like Alien Hominoid and Skeleton would both go into the cool and mid. Let me do that real quick. On to the next character, which is the Barbarian. I personally think the Barbarian's design is cool, but something that kind of always irked me about his design is just how impractical his mask always was. Like, those holes are super tiny and they're not at eye level at all. They would be almost impossible to see out of. And because of that, like, I know this is a video game and obviously you're controlling the character, so it doesn't have to be like super easy to see out of. And for other characters, like, it would be impossible to see out of their mask too. But I don't think that the mask in itself looks super cool. I do think the horns look cool, maybe a little bit big for the body, because like he does have this massive head and these massive horns. It does feel like he shouldn't even be able to hold that up with his tiny ass body, which I do think makes him like, his design is very mid. So I'm just gonna put him into uncool and bad. Don't get me wrong, I still like the Barbarian, but compared to everyone else here, he's kind of uncool and bad. Plus, his magic just being the default, like, arrow rain, bad per se, but it's not great. Yeah, he's gonna go into uncool and bad. Next up, we have the Beekeeper, and I would say that the Beekeeper has the second worst magic in the game. So he is a bad character to play as because he's just not good. But his design and the fact that his magic shoots bees is so cool. Like, conceptually, he's my favorite character just because his design is so sick and his magic is so sick. But he's not really, okay, he's not my favorite, but he's really sick in my book. So he's going into cool and bad because it's the freaking Beekeeper, dude. Like, I don't know. People have really mixed opinions on him. I love him, personally. Next up, we have the absolute Chad, the Brute. And this guy definitely can't see out of his helmet either, let's be real. But he's just so fucking sick, dude. The fact that he's a character that shows up in the game only twice when you're playing it, and he just beats the fuck out of you every time. He's literally like the hardest enemy that isn't a boss. So I just think that's really sick. And the fact that he shoots an acorn is really random. And it really makes me wonder, like, what is this guy's lore? Because he shoots an acorn, which is really random. He only shows up twice in the game. Like, what is the significance of this guy? He must have some crazy anime backstory or something. Because he technically only shows up once. The second time he shows up is the same guy. He's just being resurrected by the Necromancer. So I'm really curious if this is just like a hired mercenary or something. I really want to know more about the Brute's backstory personally, but I think he does have one of the coolest designs in the game and some of the best magic, so he's going to go into cool and good because he is really sick. There's not going to be an uncool in mid tier. Anyone who would go in mid just goes to uncool and good. Let's just say that. They'll go at the bottom. Next up, we have the Civilian, and I'm going to rank him in the same time as the Peasant because I flip-flop on these characters so much. And I don't mean their magic. Like, their magic both sucks, obviously. But I mean their designs. Like, sometimes I'll be like, the Peasant's design, like, sucks ass. The hood makes it so much worse. But the Civilian is awesome because I love his spiky hair. But then I look at him for longer and I'm like, actually, no, the Peasant looks really sick. The Civilian just looks stupid. He's just a generic-ass dude. But I also have I like spiky hair in characters, so I really flip-flop constantly between those two. So because of that, I do usually think they're both cool. I'm going to put them both in cool and bad, because their magic's not... Actually, no, I'm going to put them in cool... Nah, they're bad. Their magic's bad. They have probably some of the worst magic in the game. So they're both going to go into cool and bad, but I think Peasant goes slightly above the Civilian, even though I really like the Civilian, too. Their Arrow Rain... Okay... It's just me personally. Like, I know it's not just me, but the whole knife throwing magic, I hate it so much, dude. It sucks so bad. Like, it's like characters who don't have elemental magic still having the armor pierce thing. That is good, but it doesn't save the character. I think that Arrow Rain magic isn't that bad because, like, the fact that it shoots a little bit after you cast it too, because it keeps shooting down, is good whenever you have it leveled up a lot. Because you can fire it off and then run into the arrows falling after it hit the enemy and get some combos off of that. It's not bad, I mean, but it's not great either. It's still Arrow Rain magic. The damage is pretty garbage, and also the casting speed is pretty bad too. So they're both going into cool and bad. Next up, we have the Conehead. And I honestly don't have super strong opinions about this guy. He just looks like a very generic knight character that would be in any other game, to be honest. Like, it feels like the Conehead could be the, like, default character in literally any game that has knights in it. The cone doesn't really add much to the design, in my opinion, and if anything, it makes him look goofier, or like a clan member if they got knight armor, and I think he's fine. I'm not gonna say he's amazing or anything. I just never really felt any particular way about him. I don't think he's super uncool, but I don't think he's super, like, good. Like, his designs... Okay, the design he has in the selection menu looks sick because it does have, like, the glare coming off of it. But in-game, when you're actually playing as him, I think it's mid because he just doesn't look super cool, in my opinion. Coneheads look alright. So, he does have bomb magic, but that's kind of generic.
So he's just going to go at the very bottom of uncool and good. Because Bomb Magic isn't terrible, but, you know, it's Bomb Magic. So that's just where he's going for now. Because I can't really decide where to put this guy. He's probably the character I have absolutely no feeling on.
Next up, we have the Cultist, and I think he has one of the coolest designs in the game, to be honest. And his magic's Eye, so he's just going to go into cool mid with the skeleton. Next up, we have probably the most controversial character in the game, the Green Knight. Maybe it's just because I'm biased, because whenever I first started playing Castle Crashers, green was my favorite color, so I just happened to pick him first. And I played through the whole game with him, and I think he's okay. Okay. His poison magic is nice, okay? His magic isn't crazy or anything. I would say it's good. Like, the fact that... See, here's the thing, though. With the magical infusion, that's always going to be worse than just armor pierce, because the only thing that matters is damage. The magical infusion doesn't mean anything. It does do a lot of damage. I feel like they should all just do ×4, and then the people who do have magic do more. Because, like, who cares if certain characters are better? Certain characters already are better. Like, it would just be cooler that way. In my personal opinion. I know people hate the fact that his heavy attack makes it, like, harder to juggle, but I think that actually, like, adds to his character. Like, don't attack me. Hear me out, okay? You can still juggle with the Green Knight, but it is way harder. So I feel like because of that, I wouldn't classify him as worse. I classify him as more of a challenge character. Like, this guy is the hardest to beat the game with, especially in Insane Mode. And because of that, I think he goes into cool and good, because I love really hard characters to play as. Next up, we have the Grey Knight. I really like the appeal of the Grey Knight, him being sort of an everyman underdog, and him being one of the first characters you unlock. I feel like he's just sort of like a secret 5th starter knight. But if he was an option whenever I was first picking, I would have picked him probably, because I just really like underdog characters. But I do really like him. If it weren't for his design, the fact that he's just supposed to be like an everyman version of the starter 4 knights, you would definitely go a little bit lower, because like the Barbarian basically... Actually, no, I think the Barbarian doesn't have the bombs. It was a good comparison. The Conehead is basically the exact same as the Grey Knight, except his magical infusion actually works. But I think the Grey Knight is one of the coolest characters in the game. Because of that, and because if magical infusion doesn't work, I'm going to put him into the top of cool and mid, because I do think he's really cool, but the fact that his magical infusion is bugged really, like, takes away from his character, because I use magical infusion all the time. Next up, we have the worst character in the game, in my opinion. Now, I know this might be a controversial take, because I voiced my opinion. Okay, what I'm about to say, you better promise not to judge me, because I swear I very, very rarely use this website. But I posted my take on Hattie to the Castle Crashers subreddit, and pretty much everyone disagrees. But in my personal opinion, Hattie is by far the worst character in the game, for a multitude of reasons. Let's start off with his design though, because I really hate his design. His big-ass block head and his pale white skin, and the fact that he's always crying with a blank-ass expression on his face, not only makes him look off-putting, but not in like a it's supposed to be off-putting way. It makes him look like a really bad SCP made by a 13-year-old, personally. Especially if you know the lore behind him, he just looks like a really bad SCP made by a 13-year-old. And although his magic looks cool, it is really bad, because his area splash attack magic, it hits like very delayed. When you use the magic, there's like almost a half-second wait before it actually pops. And because of that, it's not a very good get-out-of-jail reactionary, like a reactionary get-out-of-jail-free card if you're getting crowded on by a bunch of enemies, because it's so slow. And it doesn't do super high damage like the Saw Blades or the Red Knight. He's just bad in pretty much every single way. Design, magic, everything. And he's going to be the first character that goes into Abomination, because there is literally zero incentive to play him, in my opinion. Next up, we have one of the coolest characters, in my opinion, which is the Eskimo. A lot of people say he's just like a rip-off Blue Knight, But I actually like the Eskimo's design more than the Blue Knight. The Blue Knight I always kind of didn't like. I don't really know why. For the main 4 knights, I think the fact that they have like really rectangular heads looks kind of dumb, because certain characters that don't have rectangular heads, like the Industrialist, or if their rectangular heads look more like roundish, like an actual head, like the Beekeeper, I feel like the fact that their head is literally just a rectangle, it looks weird. And I don't necessarily, this is gonna sound stupid, but I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the color blue either. I think it's a mid color. And because of that, like, I think the Eskimo is cooler than the Blue Knight, because I think his design is just cooler. Like, people say that the Thief and the Eskimo's face looks like a butthole, and I think you gotta get your mind out of the gutter, you freak, because I think the Eskimo looks sick. The fur on his jacket basically makes him look like an upgraded version of the Thief, and he has the Blue Knight's magic. That's just so sick. I think a lot of work was put into this guy's design, and I really like all the work. Plus, he can throw snowballs, so that's also pretty sick. Ice magic is like one of the best in the game, so he's going into cool and good. Next up, we have Stoveface, and he's basically just the Grey Knight, but his magical infusion works. Same thing, arrow and bomb magic, but oh my god, he looks so fucking sick, dude. Like, this guy looks like he's about to beat the fuck out of you. Like, look at a picture of this man, bruh. He is about to beat the fuck out of you. You're gonna die when you see this man. Not only that, but the stage he appears on, Full Moon, is one of the hardest stages in the game. So just because of that, that makes him really sick.
Because of all of that, I'm going to put him into cool and mid, because Bomb Magic and Air Rain might not be amazing, but at least his magical infusion works, so he's better than the Grey Knight.
Next up, we have the Bear, and his magic's really cool, but if I'm being honest, I really don't like his design that much, and it's mainly just because of the massive rectangular forehead. I'm really not a fan of that. I like the art style of this game when the characters don't have massive rectangular foreheads. That's part of the reason why I flip-flop so much between the civilian and the peasant, because the peasant's hood kind of covers up the forehead, makes it look a little less massive. But the Bear's forehead is just on full display, and the forehead just makes him look stupid. Like, I want to play as a character that looks cool, and the foreheads just don't look cool. So, because his magic is really good, I'm going to put him above the Barbarian in uncool and good, but I still think that, nah. Just saying, on his design, he's really uncool, personally. But his magic is really sick, and he's fun to play, but very ugly design. Next up, we have the Fencer, and I may be biased because I'm a Fencer in real life, but I think he has one of the coolest designs in the game. And he's going into cool and good. I don't really need to explain that either, because he's literally just the Industrialist, but cooler in my opinion. Also, I don't really know a good place to put this in the video, but I have a little theory about the Fencers and the Industrialists and why you fight so many more Fencers in the Industrial Castle. Now, this is kind of a stretch and kind of just a headcanon, but in my theory, the reason why the Industrial Castle has so many more Fencers than Industrialists is because the Industrial Prince is a prince and not the king, but we never see the Industrial King. So my theory is that he's dead, or he got like imprisoned, or he got usurped or something, and the Industrialists are the old knights of the castle, but because the new Industrialist is so vain, he probably thinks that Fencers are more elegant, so he replaced a lot of them with Fencers. That's just my headcanon though, it's basically based off of nothing. Next up we have the Fire Demon, and I know his magic is technically better than the Orange Knights, but I can't rank this guy very good. He literally looks like he's literally just the Orange Knight, but if he was a British lizard with wings stapled on. This is one of the worst designs in the game, if I'm being honest. And it's literally just the teeth. If they changed the teeth, it would be better. And I'm not gonna lie, he does have somewhat of a charm looking so ugly, because he is a demon and he's supposed to look like not appealing, you know what I mean? But he's not a great design in my opinion. You just kind of look at him and you're like, huh. You don't look at it and you're like, ooh, a demon, I'm sick. So because of that, he's gonna go into uncool and good, but he's the least cool out of everyone here. Next up, we have probably the most underrated character in this game. We have the king himself. Now, this guy is such a sleeper pick, dude. So if you don't know his magic, he can heal himself. instead of an area attack, he gets a healing move. That is so fucking good. Now, I know the healing is slow and it doesn't heal that much, but think about it. Once you defeat a wave of enemies, you don't encounter more enemies until you move further on in the map. You can literally just full heal after every single fight. It's basically free. It's literally just free. He's probably one of the best picks for insane mode in my opinion because of that. Because if you're lacking healing items, you see, with the king, you could probably not even have to use Hawkster either. You can use somebody like the bear or the golden whale or literally any other pet orb you want because you don't need that extra healing that Hawkster gives you. So because of that, I feel like he opens up a lot more playstyles for insane mode. And I think his magic is super underrated. And the king's design is really sick in my opinion. He looks like Flint Lockwood's dad from Cloudy the Chance of Meatballs, but if he was sick as fuck. Like, not saying Flint Lockwood's dad isn't sick as fuck, but like, he's not nearly as cool as the king here. I think since he's so underrated, he's gonna go at the top of cool and good. Next up, we have the Necromancer, and I do think it's sick you have to beat insane mode to get him. He is the coolest boss in the game in my opinion, and I'm not alone. Almost everyone thinks he's the coolest boss. And his magic's fine. I was a little bit disappointed that his magic wasn't spawning in like one-hit minions because that would have been so much fun, dude. If his magic was just like spawning in a skeleton that died in like 1 or 2 hits, but it fought for you like the friendly NPCs do in the the Grey Knights or the peasants in, I don't remember the name of the area, but you know what I'm talking about. I feel like that would have made him so much cooler. It's kind of the same situation as a ninja. I'm a little disappointed by the magic because having the friendly NPCs, even though they're really useless, like that was one of my favorite parts of the games is when they show up because it just feels like you're tag teaming the enemies with the boys. Like you're just gang beating them up, you know, you're ganging up on him, you're beating his ass, gang banging the enemies. It's sick as hell. And I feel like if you were able to spawn skeletons with him, even if it like full drained your mana bar, and it probably wouldn't have been that good of magic in comparison, I still think it would have made him so much cooler. But I won't lie, he is one of the coolest characters in the game. But because his magic isn't crazy or anything, he's going at the top of cool and mid. Because let's be real, the Necromancer's magic, as cool as it is not amazing or anything. Like, you're not getting to the fucking Industrious levels or Red Knight levels of magic here. He's just fine. Next up, we have my second least favorite character in the game, and that is the open-faced Grey Knight. Now, this isn't even because of his magic, although that's part of it. The main thing I don't like about the open-faced Grey Knight is it doesn't really understand what the appeal of the regular Grey Knight was. The appeal of the regular Grey Knight is that he's an underdog, and he's an everyman, and he's just like every other Grey Knight. But the fact that this guy is an open faceplate kind of sets him apart, and that takes away from his design, in my opinion, because he's no longer an underdog or an everyman because he's set apart from the other Grey Knights. So I feel like that takes away from his design a lot. Plus, they took away the bomb magic, which was like the only good thing about Grey Knight is the bomb magic, because his magical infusion's broken, and the arrow rain's fine, but it's arrow rain, everyone has it. It doesn't make him unique. So I think because of that, open face Grey Knight's abomination, but he goes over Hattie because Hattie sucks. I get that there could be an appeal of like being an underdog, but you're still cooler than all the other underdogs, but because he doesn't have like magic like the main 4 knights do, but I still don't get the appeal. I think his design conceptually sucks. Plus, the fact that we got this guy as a playable character instead of someone like the Troll is really disappointing, because I don't have Castle Crashers on PC, so I can't download mods to play as the Troll. So I'm a little disappointed that I never get to play as him unless I want to rebuy the game, which I'll probably do when the DLC comes out, but that doesn't mean that his character doesn't suck. I still think he sucks. So he goes into Abomination. Next up, we have the Pink Knight, and initially I thought this character was okay, but the more I played as him, the less I liked him. I'm just not a huge fan of him. The Pink Knight just looks dumb in my opinion. I think his magic is silly, the fact that it's rainbows and he shoots off like penguins and gummy bears and stuff, but he's just not like that good. I feel like if they were gonna make a character that was specifically to be stupid, they should have made him like super OP or something, or at least like on the better end. He's just kind of mid. His rainbow magic does stun, which is nice, so he's good, but I don't think that he's very cool. I think he's one of the least cool characters in the game, personally. I don't think that the pink... I also don't like this shade of pink. I would have liked it to be a little less faded, personally, but I'm not going to sit here and go on a tangent about the shade of pink not being how I like it. I just don't personally like this design. I don't have a super good reason to either. I mean, you already know how I feel about the rectangle foreheads, but I do think the Green Knight's cool. So that's not like an ultimate deciding factor or anything. I just don't personally like the Pink Knight. No super specific reason, I just don't. So because of that, he's going above the bear in uncool and good. Next up, we have the Blacksmith, which I also don't like his design. I think the fact that he has antlers coming out of his helmet is really dumb because they basically serve no purpose. If he had a charge attack or something where he charged you with his antlers, then they'd be sick, but he's basically just trying too hard to look cool because he's literally a blacksmith. He made this helmet for himself trying to look cool, but it's still a stupid-ass rectangle helmet, and the antlers are just kind of stapled on. And his magic sucks too. Like, I thought the frog was cool at first until I started using it consistently, and I realized it's one of the worst magics in the game. It's not that bad because it still can do decent damage against bosses, but like, it's still sucky magic. I think he's less cool than the Pink Knight too, honestly. Like, the Pink Knight and the Blacksmith, both sucky characters in my opinion. If I didn't already get them in the remastered version I bought, because in some versions you have to buy them separately, in some versions they just come with it. I don't really know what the whole deal with that is. When you get the remastered version, sometimes they're separate, but I personally just didn't like them. I don't like either of these characters' designs or their magic very much. I wouldn't have even gotten them if I had to pay extra for them. So you know what? He's gonna be the first character in uncool and bad, because his magic's bad. Like, it's just not that good, and he's uncool. Like, unlike the Pink Knight, the stun mechanic can be really good. This guy doesn't even have that. He's just bad all around. Next up, we have what I feel like is probably one of the most underrated designs, which is the Royal Guard, I do believe he's called. I know a lot of people don't like the chain mask, but I really like it. I mean, he's literally just Grey Knight, you know, bombs and arrows, but I think he looks sick. I think he looks a little bit cooler than Grey Knight, honestly. I recently just beat the game with him, and it was really fun. You know, another thing is, he's one of the characters in the game that's a heavy juggle, and anytime I'm playing as a character that's a heavy juggle when you fight against him, just makes me feel more powerful when I'm playing him, just because I know how hard they are to kill. So, and not only that, but whenever you go into the actual Sand Castle, there are a couple of beefies, that Royal Guards that spawn in, but for no particular reason, they're just like twice as big as their regular beefies, which I think adds a little bit of personality to the character.
For all these reasons, he's going to go under the Green Knight in cool and mid.
Next up, we have the Blue Knight, and I kind of already spoiled how I feel about him. Even though my ice magic is really good, I just really don't fuck with his design, so he's going to go under the Industrialist and uncool and good. Enough said. You already know my thoughts on him, so let's just move on. Next up, we have the Saracen, I think it was called. Now, I don't think his design is amazing or anything. Like, I don't know. I don't feel terrible about his design. Like, I just wish it felt like he had a little bit... I wish he felt like he was a little bit more suited up, if you know what I mean. He's literally just wearing clothes. This is not battle, like, attire by any means. And I know certain other characters could technically be classified as that. You know, the Cult Minion, the Fire Demon, you know, stuff like that. But I feel like this guy especially, like... For characters like the Peasant and the Civilian, the fact that they're under-equipped is part of their charm, but this guy is like one of the guard, like he's the main guard inside of the castle when you go in. So I think that his design doesn't super fit what he's going for. I feel like if he had like plate armor or something, that'd bring him up a little bit. Because I don't think his design's amazing or anything. Whatever tier he goes in terms of coolness, he's gonna go at the bottom. And another thing is his magic is a little bit weird to rank too, because he does have the same tornado magic as the bear, but it hits differently for some reason. Like, I'm pretty sure that the Saracen's tornado magic hits less than the bear magic or something. That's just something I heard while watching, I don't remember any Castle Crasher YouTubers' names, but he's the guy that really loves the Conehead. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing from one of his videos that this guy just hits less for some reason. Another thing though is that his regular attack for most characters that's just like a single shot is an area attack. It's not a super long ranged area attack, but it is an area attack. So having the spinning magic and the area magic, I feel like makes up for the fact that it doesn't hit as much a little bit. The area magic isn't super long range, so it can't replace the bow. He's just a character with a very weird build, in my opinion. Like, when you're playing a Saracen, I don't really know what you're supposed to go for magic, but he's a very range crippled character. I feel like because the bear has at least he has the projectile that goes across the screen. But I think his uniqueness bumps him up a little bit too. He's a very strange character. There's really no other character in the game quite like Saracen. But I think he's got to go probably... I don't think he's super cool, but he is such a unique character in the way that he plays. And the way that his mechanics are just tweaked just slightly, just to make him that much more unique and balanced. I feel like just because the extra effort put into this character makes me like him a lot more. So he's going to go at the bottom of cool and good. Next up, we have kind of a disappointing character, which is the ninja. Everyone saw his magic on the boat where he teleports. When you hit him, he turns into a log and then he teleports above you and does a dive attack. And whenever we got him, and it turns out that he just had regular magic, I think he has dark magic, if I remember correctly. Just like the cultist and the skeleton. I think we're all really disappointed because it's a similar situation to Necromancer, except my expectation that you would be able to spawn in people as the Necromancer was not a realistic expectation, because that's not even what he does when you fight against him after the couple waves of enemies, but that's like a scripted thing. That's not like actually what his magic is. So that was just a personal thing for me. But with this guy, he literally just does use the teleport magic when you fight him. So him not having that is really disappointing. And I don't blame people for being disappointed by that. Even though I don't think that the teleport dive attack magic would have had a bunch of application in the game. It does take away from a lot of the personality of the character, the fact that you can't use it. Even though he has one of the coolest designs in the game, I don't think that he's that good because of that. He's going in the mid tier. Next up, we have my second favorite starting knight, which is the Orange Knight. And he looks aight. I think he's just going to go into cool and mid, because I think he looks kind of cool, but his magic's like just alright, you know? It's nothing crazy or anything. The fire magic is basically you're basically just playing as Green Knight, but with a good heavy attack. But I like the color green more than the color orange. But just because he's basically the same as Green Knight but better, I'll put him right under the ninja. Just to be fair, because, you know, Orange Knight is still sick, but it's the color, like, and I do think the color orange is a little bit underappreciated. Like, I'm not gonna go into rants about people's opinions on colors, but whenever people talk about which colors they like the most, which is not that often of a conversation topic, but orange never comes into the conversation, which I feel like orange is sick. I don't know why nobody really likes it that much. Next up, we have Snaky, and he has one of the coolest designs in the game. He's basically fixes everything I don't like about the main knight's designs, and his magic is really good. This guy basically looks like one of the starter knights, but cooler, because his faceplate actually looks like a faceplate, not just a line drawn on the regular helmet. Like, let's be realistic, okay? When you look at open face Grey Knight, is that really how you thought the helmet would open up? Because the helmet is kind of shaped, the faceplate is shaped like this, kinda. So it should open up like that. But for some reason, this bottom part's cut off and it just, the triangle part opens up at the top. Even though it's not directly stated that that isn't connected within the design because there's no line there. But because this guy has a clear hinge on the side of his helmet, it's very obvious how his helmet opens up if you did decide to open up. And because of that extra bit of coherency, I feel like his design holds up a lot better. And his helmet also just looks like a helmet. Like a bit of a critique I have about all the main four knights and also the DLC characters is that their helmets just look like cloth hats almost, because they don't, when you look at this, it doesn't look like it's made out of metal. It looks like it's just a hat, kind of, you know, it could flop around. look at the Green Knight's helmet and tell me that looks like it's made out of metal. No, but with this, you can see the parts where the metal plates were bolted in on the helmet. It's just way better a design. I think that he might be one of the coolest characters in the game. I think he's gonna go under the Fencer in the cool and good tier. Next up, we have the Thief, and I think he looks all right. I mean, I really like the Eskimo's design, but the Thief is just kind of meh compared to the Eskimo. He's not super cool or anything. His magic's, actually, who am I kidding? His magic's really not good either. He's pretty bad. He's not that cool either. I think he deserves to go in uncool and bad with the Blacksmith. Next up, we have the Red Knight. And even though his magic's really good, I don't like his design a bunch. But because his magic's so good, he's going to go at the bottom of the cool and good tier. I don't think he's super cool, but I don't think his design's uncool enough to go into any of the uncool tiers. So that's just why he's ranked there. Anyway, this is my final Castle Crashers tier list. So let me know what you guys thought about it, because this was a pretty fun video to make. I love doing character tier lists of games. So let me know if you guys want to see more of these, because I really enjoyed doing the Binding of Isaac one. But I feel like this one will be a little bit shorter because you don't really have to dive into the mechanics of each character since they all play almost exactly the same. So, let me know what you felt about my ranking and what you disagree with, because I feel like this is not a commonly held opinion on the characters, with the King being at the very top of cool and good especially, and Hattie being at an abomination tier, because I know a lot of people like him. So just let me know what you guys think, because I'm curious what the Castle Crashers community thinks of this, and I don't think that Reddit is a good idea of the Castle Crashers general opinion on something, because when you say anything on Reddit that goes slightly against the hive mind, even if it's not even that different of an opinion, you literally just get disliked into oblivion, and everyone just berates you in the comments instead of actually having a discussion. So just let me know what you thought of this whole tier list. I'm very curious what the Castle Crashers community thinks. I'd also like to give a thank you to all of you for watching. This video has taken me probably longer to make than almost any of my others, if I remember correctly. I started making this video in the morning, and it's night time now. It's 11 o'clock. I mean, I did work on it on and off all day, but it took me probably 5 hours to edit all this stuff. So thank you all for watching. I'd also like to give a huge thanks to my friend Bjorn for giving me some editing tips after seeing some of my Binding of Isaac character tier list to make this one a little bit more interesting to sit through. So yeah, thanks for that. And if you made all the way to this video, thanks for watching. Just one last time. See ya.